Volcanoes, nature's infernal time bomb.
The Earth reshapes itself constantly. Oblivious to mankind, it spills its restless heart through the rocky crust on which we live. Its volcanoes dwarf us with their might, and in their diversity they challenge our understanding. Like children, we cherish a simple notion of volcanic power, a spectacle of liquid fire springing from the Earth. But each of the Earth's volcanoes offers a different glimpse of our planet's deepest secrets, and each holds its particular threat. Mount Vesuvius rises almost 4,000 feet above the Bay of Naples. It appears tranquil, even beautiful. But its history makes it one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world. The year is 79 AD. It is August the 24th. Pompeii is a prosperous and elegant town at the foot of a green and wooded mountain. This tranquil city is about to be swallowed up in the biggest volcanic eruption that mainland Europe has ever seen. One massive single blast of steam and ash brought the volcano to life and the people of Pompeii onto the streets. A second explosion hurled gas and rock 18 miles high into the stratosphere. As blazing ashes filled the town, the air was thick with the smell of sulfur and the cries of the victims. The 2,000 citizens trapped in Pompeii fell where they stood, choked by burning ash and poison gases. An end so unforgiving that their contorted forms remain preserved by that fiery shroud. Children, parents, slaves, soldiers, lovers. A complete society condemned by nature to struggle for eternity for its last breath. Vesuvius is just one of 500 active volcanoes around the world. Most lie along the lines of fire that circle our planet, cracks and fault lines that mirror the convulsions beneath the Earth's surface. The heart of the planet is hot and turbulent. Deep beneath our feet, some 60 miles down, the temperature is 1,200 degrees centigrade, hot enough to melt metal. The mix of molten rock and gases produced at these depths is called magma. It rises in red-hot globules until it collects beneath the Earth's cool and brittle crust. If the crust should weaken, a volcano comes to life. 500 million people live in parts of the world that are prone to volcanic eruption, but not all of them realize it. February 1943. In the Mexican state of Michoacan, the townsfolk of San Juan believe they are being punished by God. Exactly 12 months before, a plague of locusts had stripped their fields bare of crops. Now, they are being hit by earth tremors, up to 300 in a single day. Their priest says that it's divine punishment for a land dispute with a neighboring village. On February the 26th, As Dionisio Pulido works in his field, something extraordinary happens. A clap like thunder, a crack in the ground, and in a cloud of fine dust, the earth heaves itself up. Paricotin, a new volcano, is born.
There was steam coming out of the ground. After a few hours, it started to become thicker and thicker. At night, there was fire bursting out of the ground. The flames reached 400 or 500 meters into the air. Who would ever have believed it? A volcano, right there, in a flat field.
The villagers of San Juan didn't even know what a volcano was. They never had them in this part of Mexico. Curious geologists began to arrive. For them, it was a lifetime's opportunity to study a new volcano. The local people were less enthusiastic.
I could see sparks coming from the volcano, coming out of the ground and leaping all around. It looked as if they were going to spread everywhere.
The column of ash rose almost 20,000 feet and reached as far as Mexico City, 200 miles away. San Juan took the worst of it. Within 12 months, the ashfall had killed every plant within 5 miles of the crater. 5,000 cattle and horses were suffocated by the dust. It threatened to overwhelm the town itself.
I used to sweep the roofs of the houses to clear the ash from them. Otherwise, they would have fallen down because of the weight. They got the young girls to do that job because we were lighter.
To the villagers, it was a monster. But the volcanologists found that the volcano was a complex organism. Different parts of it showed different behavior patterns. The central crater produced sulfur, ash, and flying rocks. But on the volcano's flank, the vents gave off quite different gases and lava. A lot of it. The lava flow began on the second day. It would continue unbroken for 9 years. The townspeople were divided. Some said it was time to give up and go. Others were determined not to surrender.
How could we leave our town? This was our place. Our homes were here.
But 15 months after the volcano appeared, Don Celedonio and his neighbors knew they were beaten.
Finally, the day came when we reached an agreement. When the lava reached the gates of the cemetery, it was time for all the people to leave town.
To guide them to a safer place, they took with them a statue from the church, El Señor de los Milagros, the Lord of the Miracles.
That's when we took the statue of Christ from a church where I was baptized. We left the church and we started walking and walking. There was no road. We walked till we reached a place where there were a few small houses. Then we laid down the Lord of the Miracles and decided to stay there.
There where they rested, the people of San Juan built themselves a new church and a new town. It has become a shrine for pilgrims to the Lord of the Miracles. But they cannot forget the village which was taken from them by the volcano, and they feel sure why they lost it.
Yes, it was God who punished us. The priest told us that the volcano was a punishment. It was the fault of our ancestors. The missionaries told us not to go anywhere, that it would be better to do penance and ask God to stop the lava. We went around everywhere on bended knees, on a pilgrimage from church to church. We still do. All the time we are asking the Lord not to get angry because we don't want to go through all that again.
The villagers believe it was their prayers that finally caused the eruption to end after 9 years. 50 years on, the old town is abandoned, and the lava field around Paracatine is barren of vegetation. But mankind's attachment to the earth is deep-rooted. Not a single human life was taken by the volcano. But as recently as 1990, a new dispute over ownership of the land swallowed up by the lava led to violent disagreement and murder. Climbing an active volcano would reduce most people to thoughtful silence rather than set them singing. Mount Etna, at nearly 11,000 feet high, is on a different scale to Paracatine. It dominates Sicily and is the largest volcano in Europe. François Leguerne, a French volcanologist, challenges convention. He refuses to accept that natural forces are beyond our control.
Etna's nature is something very powerful that we understand very little, and we are very small and we can be destroyed very easily by nature. But I'm convinced that we have to do something.
Orazio Consoli is a mountain guide. He has worked with François for nearly 20 years. He knows Etna in all her moods.
Etna is both a mountain and a volcano, so you have both love and hatred for her. We Sicilians do love this volcano. Every morning, I wake up just to look at her to see how she is. That's love. But the hatred is for Etna's destruction. I've seen houses and vineyards destroyed by lava, and I know that they'll never come back.
Etna's history of destruction is a long one. The ancient Greeks believed that Hephaestus, the god of fire, lived beneath this mountain and made weapons for the gods. The blasts from the crater, they thought, were the sparks from his furnace. In more than 150 fiery eruptions, lava flows from Etna have regularly laid waste to the towns and villages around it. But 15 years ago, François Leguerne decided to defy this natural order, to persuade the lava to flow where he wanted, rather than where it chose to go. Watching the lava flow through its channels and tunnels, he saw how if a rock happened to fall in, it could form a solid plug that would force the lava naturally to divert elsewhere. He concluded that if he, as a scientist, could block the lava channel in the right place, it would have to turn aside, away from the threatened villages.
My job is to observe. To divert the lava fluid, you just observe natural lava diversion. You understand the way they are made by nature, a block falling in a lava tunnel, and then you find a place when you can help nature to divert by itself. You just break the solid crust on the active lava flank, and the lava go another direction.
But to break through and divert the flow, François reckoned he needed some extra help from high explosives. And to be effective, they would need to be put as close as possible to the red-hot lava, through a hole drilled in the side of the lava channel.
We test explosives, but the problem is when you heat explosive, they can self-detonate because the lava is at 1,000 degrees centigrade. So we test different system of cooling to cool down the explosives. So finally we used cooling using water and circulation, just like in your car when you cool the engine. The explosives are inside a tube, and the ultimate phase, they are pushed by compressed air.
It was a calculated risk. Not everyone was convinced it was wise, but the mountain was more dangerous still. And shortly after the blast, the lava stream changed its course. François Leguerne claims success.
So we succeed to break the lava stream in the main channel. We had a big block taken from the lava side that enter the tunnel systems and obstruct the tunnel system. It is very simple.
On Sicily, they still prefer to put their faith in divine intervention rather than high explosives. For Orazio Consoli, there is a higher power still, the mountain.
I think it's good that men try to control nature. It's good to study a volcano like Etna. Science has to advance and make progress. But Etna is a volcano that we should all respect. At the end of the day, she does exactly what she wants.
Volcano scientists don't always find a welcome from those they are trying to help. 20 million people live in Mexico City. Just 30 miles away lies Popocatépetl, one of the most heavily monitored volcanoes in the world. The last major eruption was in 1720, but its present behavior is now giving volcanologists serious concern. Each day it is blowing out more than 25,000 tons of sulfur dioxide, a sure sign that magma is rising in the chamber beneath it. The 300,000 people who live on the volcano's fertile slopes are mostly farmers. Their approach to Popocatépetl is rather different from that of the scientists.
Popocatépetl is an ancient and sacred mountain, a living mountain. Popocatépetl reminds us that the Earth is a living being, that Mother Earth and everything that we can see here, the mountain, the rocks, the caves, are all alive.
The custom of bringing gifts to Popocatépetl to guarantee a good harvest is deep-rooted. In caves under the mountain, archaeologists have discovered similar offerings from 2,000 years ago.
In this sacred place called Alcalican, we still keep the old traditions. We venerate the mountain to stay in touch with its spirits.
Popocatépetl is now a restricted zone for all except volcanologists. They make regular visits to check a host of scientific instruments. But their hardware leaves those who live in the shadow of the mountain unimpressed.
There are a lot of people here who are afraid of the volcano, but the people who are closest to the Earth are not afraid. Popocatépetl's name means smoking mountain. It does what it has to do. When the Earth gives off smoke and gases, it's talking to us.
But Popocatépetl talks to the scientists too. Using remote cameras and instruments, they can measure every breath of its gases, every spasm in its belly, and each separate swelling of the lava dome. They can even plot the precise course that the lava would take, given different degrees of eruption. Their problem is understanding enough of what the mountain is saying to know when it is about to blow. Until they can do that, the local people will put their faith in the old ways.
The people won't leave their houses easily. They have their roots here and they are ready to die here in their homes. Our grandfathers, the elders, say that nothing will happen, that the volcano is just smoking its tobacco, smoking its pipe. Scientists can't predict the behavior of Mother Earth. When the mountain has something to spit out, then, just like a human being, Mother Earth will do it, and that won't be predictable.
Volcanoes are not predictable. But the most frightening prospect that Popocatépetl may yet offer is not simply the fire within it, but the glacier of ice in full view on the summit. For when extreme elements in nature meet, the consequence for people is catastrophic. Vesuvius is rightly regarded with respect for its terrible destruction of Pompeii in 79 AD. But Pompeii was not the only city to perish. On the other flank of the mountain, a small sea town, Herculaneum, also met its end, but under 5 times the weight of volcanic debris. Today, beneath the layers of later cities, Herculaneum can be found, its colors perfectly preserved. But if anything, this city's destruction was more fearful even than that of Pompeii, because Herculaneum was consumed not just by ash, but by the volcano's mightiest weapon, volcanic mudflow. The skeletons of those caught up in that deadly avalanche still lie broken where they fell. The violence visited on the people of Herculaneum is all too apparent. But more shocking still is that their fate foreshadows the identical death of an entire town within our own lifetime. In the volcanic peaks of the South American Andes, the combination of ice and fire is beautiful and deadly. When Nevada del Ruiz, a snow-capped mountain in Colombia, erupted in November 1985, it would melt in seconds billions of tons of ice. In the steaming avalanche that followed, 25,000 people would die. This was an old volcano, born during the last ice age. It was believed to be dormant. 30 miles away lay the prosperous farming town of Armero. It sat on a rich volcanic topsoil over 20 feet thick. But Nevada del Ruiz's last eruption had been over 100 years before. Memories were short, and the crops were good. The timescale of the Earth has its own rhythm. Nevada del Ruiz is there because of the slow collision of 2 slabs of the Earth's crust. Deep beneath the mountain, molten rock and gases were building up. Another eruption was inevitable. Small earthquakes gave the first warning. Scientists called a meeting with local people to warn them of the dangers. To make their point, they brought along a film.
In September or October, they called a meeting in the church. They showed us a film of the Mount St. Helens volcano. Personally, I just didn't believe it.
Just 5 years before, Mount St. Helens in the United States had been like Nevada del Ruiz, a tranquil, snow-capped peak. Then, in 1980, it exploded. In the devastating blast, its glacier melted. The mudflow that followed had been completely unforeseen. Now, in Colombia, the scientists were fearful of a repeat performance.
We never imagined that what happened there could happen to us. No, we said, that can't happen here.
Some local people were worried. One family even climbed up the volcano to talk to scientists inspecting the crater.
All we knew, there was this thing going on up there. And any time it could come down and do something. I had a wife, I had 3 little girls, and my wife was very worried about all those stories. So it was my idea. We just went up to the volcano. We found this American. He told us that everything was under control, that if anything happened, that there was going to be enough time to evacuate the town before anything could get down here.
But the order to evacuate never came, because the authorities did not take the warnings seriously. Seismograph readings sent direct to Bogota were disregarded. And when scientists published a risk assessment, they were accused of damaging property prices in Armero. But Armero was about to disappear from the face of the earth. On November the 13th came the first massive explosion of steam and ash. The blast was not followed by flowing lava. Instead, the scalding magma started to melt the heavy snow on the volcano's peak. Just 1/10 of the summit's ice cap melted, the first trickle of water turning to a hot and filthy torrent. A pulsating mixture of meltwater, pumice, ash, and boulders. Gathering momentum, it tore down the valley, a wall of dirt 100 feet high, heading for Armero.
A very big roar came from the mountain, and I knew that was the end of it. We grabbed the little girls, everything turned upside down. I heard another big roar, and it was the mud coming down. And it took the little girl in my arms, and I lost contact with her and everything.
Dawn revealed the agony. The center of Armero had been obliterated, its people swallowed up by the avalanche or flung downstream by the deluge. They were indistinguishable from the mud that entombed them. The torrent had carried Cesar Payan almost 10 miles. Amazingly, close by him, he discovered his youngest daughter.
I had to crawl over the mud and over a lot of people very badly injured, dead. It was terrible. As soon as I began to crawl, I found my little girl. I heard her call us. So she was 3 years old, no? I grabbed her, and I put her on my back, and she just grabbed me from my neck as a response that she could feel that I was her father.
As rescuers began to arrive, the scale of the devastation became apparent.
Pues dramático, pues, la escena, ¿no?
It was a dramatic scene. From the air, you could see the whole valley. And then, as you got closer, you could see people moving and animals in the mud. I said, "Oh my God, this is big, much bigger than I ever imagined."
The real nightmares were just beginning. Cesar Payan had already lost his wife and 2 older daughters, killed outright in the avalanche of mud. Now, like many others, he would find his surviving child simply vanish, lost or kidnapped in the chaos of the relief effort.
Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, came a big helicopter with the Red Cross members inside. One of them just came over to me and said, "There's your little baby, she looks all right, but why don't you let us take her to Ambalema and we'll give her special medical attention over there." So it was my second big mistake because I never saw her again. They took her, she left with them, and until today, I never saw her again.
Among the corpses of Armero, at least 1,000 people were still alive, but trapped in the morass of volcanic mud covering the town. Among them was Amira Sanchez, a 13-year-old girl buried up to her neck in debris and water. Her mother, unaware of the tragedy, was 100 miles away in Bogotá.
I was at the house where my brother lived. A woman living there knew Omaira. At 6 in the morning, this woman knocked on the door and told us that Armero had disappeared.
Amira's image flashed around the world, her courage summing up Armero's tragedy. But her mother wasn't told how serious her situation was. She had left her daughter 2 days before among family and friends. Now, Amira was trapped by their dead bodies.
Everyone would say to Omaira, "Don't worry, we're going to get you out. Don't worry, your mother's waiting for you." And would start to pull. But she complained that she was hurting all over. So we prayed. We said a prayer together. And I said to God, "Please, get us out of this. Save our lives."
The water was still rising, and the volcanic mud starting to settle. The rescuers lacked vital tools.
We were asking for equipment. The helicopters would come full of journalists and cameramen, politicians, the military, but the tools didn't come. I remember we would bail the water out with a couple of pans that we found, but with so much mud, after half an hour it would be full of water again, so we weren't really getting anywhere. We'd get the water down so far, then it would come back up again.
On the third day after the eruption, a helicopter did finally arrive with equipment. But Amira's rescuers found that the water pump they had asked for was broken.
Well, we sort of gave up. I was the first to pull out. I felt helpless. Amira was very weak by this time. She wasn't talking anymore. She couldn't keep herself up. I stayed there meditating. Maybe half an hour went by. Then I didn't hear anything anymore. I saw people moving away, and I said, Amira's dead.
At the point of rescue, Amira had died from a heart attack. She'd been trapped in the mud of Armero for 60 hours. Her mother learned the news on a street corner in Bogota.
There was a young boy selling newspapers. I saw her picture in the paper and I thought, what's this? So I asked the boy. He said to me, that's Amira, she's died. What do you mean? They were rescuing her. No, he said, she's dead. And so at that moment, what with my tears and my distress, he asked, are you from Amero then? Yes, I said, I'm from Amero, and Amira is my daughter.
The body of Amira Sanchez was left in the mud like those of the other victims of Armero, 25,000 of them. Today, the town of Armero is a mass grave, its people literally buried alive by the volcano above it. Two-thirds of the world's active volcanoes girdle the Pacific Ocean in a ring of fire. Sitting at the junction of three tectonic plates, Japan has more than 80 volcanoes within its islands. 16 of them are judged to be particularly dangerous. Among them, Mount Anzen on Kyushu Island. Until 1990, Mount Anzen had been dormant for 200 years. Its new threat was recognized by Japanese volcanologists as early as 1966, and it was singled out to be closely monitored. Seismometers and tilt meters were installed in the very bowels of the mountain and were constantly scrutinized. But in spite of all precautions, 43 people would die on Mount Anzen. Among them, two of the most experienced volcano watchers in the world. The French volcanologists, Maurice and Katia Kraft, had devoted their lives to filming volcanoes. They wanted to help people understand their danger. They had concluded that the most devastating weapon of the volcanic arsenal was not lava, but a phenomenon called pyroclastic flow, the kind of blazing avalanche thought to have swallowed up Pompeii. Here, at Mount Augustine in Alaska, the Crafts had filmed one from close up. Their footage shows a glowing torrent of ash and gas, so hot that it glides down the mountain at over 100 miles an hour. The immense temperatures mean that everything in its path is incinerated. On this occasion, the Crafts got out just in time. Now, in Japan, they were hoping to see more pyroclastic flows at Mount Anzen.
The Crafts always raced to the site of a new eruption, wherever it was, within a couple of days, from wherever they happened to be in the world. They had filmed pyroclastic flow before. They knew how dangerous it is.
At Anzen, the Crafts found themselves competing with journalists who'd already got shots of the eruption. The media were beginning to be complacent about the danger. Masayuki Sato was a local taxi driver working for television film crews.
その日によってチャーターが違いますから。まあ言われた通りに。
I was hired to drive for lots of different news crews. I took them wherever they wanted to go. We saw debris flow and pyroclastic flow. They filmed both. In daytime, the dust clouds looked like powerful black thunderheads. At night, we'd say, "Oh, that's beautiful."
Looking for better shots, the television news crews had started to cross freely into the danger zone. The crafts went along with them.
Despite the warning given by Japanese volcano experts, I guess they made their own judgment that it was all right to go into the danger zone. They could see the Japanese media in there ahead of them, already filming the volcano.
As they waited for the eruption, Maurice and Katya were relaxed and confident. A close encounter with pyroclastic flow would, after all, be nothing new.
In Augustine volcano in Alaska in '86, we have seen pyroclastic flows going just in front of us, 40 meters, from 40 meters, like trains.
You have very few around the world and they are not common, so it's very interesting.
I am never afraid because I have seen so much eruptions in 23 years that even if I die tomorrow, I don't care.
Just 24 hours later, under a lowering sky, Mount Unzen finally gave the news crews the pyroclastic flow they had been waiting for. As the burning cloud headed down the mountain, Masayuki Sato was in radio contact with a fellow taxi driver, his best friend Shigatsu Tachiko.
My friend radioed me saying, "I can't get out of this. How about you?" I said, "Me neither." I put the microphone down and braced myself. I could see it coming this way. It was so fast, about 100 kilometers an hour. Then all the stones hit the windscreen. Our taxi base was calling for my friend over the radio. They knew we were both at the mountain. I answered, but my friend didn't.
Maurice Kraft appears to have chosen a camera position away from the pyroclastic flow. But then came a shift in the wind. The burning avalanche turned blindly towards Maurice and Katya. They were killed instantly. When the bodies of the French couple were eventually recovered, it was their friend and colleague, Professor Kamo, who had formally to identify them.
It was very easy to identify Maurice Kraft because he was such a big man. You know how charcoal is made? The carbonized wood remains the exact same shape as the original tree trunk and branches. Well, his body was just like that. Pyroclastic flow can reach over 1,000 degrees centigrade, so the fluids in the human body evaporate instantly. That's why every part of his body remained intact. You could recognize the features of his face, even though everything was carbonized.
Altogether, 43 people died during the few seconds of that glowing avalanche. Volcanologists, journalists, and local people alike. Even as they died, elsewhere on the Pacific's Ring of Fire, Another volcano was stirring itself awake. And this one would shake the greatest superpower in the world. There had been two small earthquakes in the Philippines that spring. The first was on the island of Luzon. The second was a political earthquake, and much bigger. For almost 100 years, the Philippines had been a dependency of the United States, providing US troops with military facilities and rest and recreation. Now the treaty for the bases was up for renegotiation and threatened to become complicated. What no one foresaw was that the forces of nature would make it very simple indeed. Mount Pinatubo lay in clear view from the American Clark Air Force Base. In 1991, the volcano had been dormant for over 400 years. For the Aita tribespeople who lived on its slopes, the rich volcanic soil provided a good living. They called the mountain Apo Malyari.
Apo Malyari is our god. Everything that we had before the eruption, good life, fertility, food, peace, was given to us by her. That's why all the Aita people praised her. We loved her.
Even when explosions of steam began to appear on the flank of the volcano, the Aita people did not feel alarmed.
The people are not afraid of it because it is the sign of a good harvest for them. It is the traditional belief that whenever they go to till the land or wherever they go at the foot of the Mount Pinatubo, it's a good sign for them.
The first thought of the US military, too, was that Pinatubo might just be letting off steam. But when their seismographs recorded 400 earthquakes within 2 days, they knew that magma was rising inside the mountain. With no previous history of Pinatubo's volcanic behavior, a catastrophic eruption could come at any time.
We could see it. And initially, we didn't think we were that vulnerable. But the fear started to grow slowly. And once we got, I guess, into early June, we knew we'd had a monster over there behind us.
Gas measurements showed a sudden and massive fall in the amount of sulfur dioxide coming from the crater. It seemed that the main vent could have become blocked. If so, the pressure could only build. The decision was taken to evacuate.
I got a phone call from my commander. He said, well, we need to go on the air with a special announcement of evacuation process. The signal to evacuate was given at dawn when volcano experts detected a slight increase in activity from Mount Pinatubo last night.
But while 14,000 personnel moved off the base, one small group was staying behind. They included security police, volcano scientists, and to report for US Air Force News, Flight Sergeant Rusty Barfield.
When I was left here, it was just a ghost town. No one in the streets, no one in the stores. We were here for 3 days just waiting for something to happen. We didn't know when it was going to happen, but the volcanologist told us something's going to happen.
What happened was a series of violent explosions as Pinatubo cleared its throat. On June the 15th, it finally blew.
Is the alarm going off? Are we being evacuated?
And I saw some security policemen just jumping into a truck. Rusty, get out of here, get out of here. And they're pointing up. And I look up, and it was incredible. I just ran inside the station, screaming top of my lungs, the volcano is blowing up.
We need to get out of here, let's go. This sucker's huge this time.
And we're just tearing down the road, probably 70, 80 miles an hour. And I'm trying to shoot video out of the van of the volcano. Everyone was very, very scared. I never imagined being that big. It was just overpowering. It just bellowed and bellowed and bellowed.
In a cloud 10 miles across, the ash was thrown 130,000 feet into the sky. And from Pinatubo, there now came scorching pyroclastic flows in all directions.
We were having thoughts that, are we actually going to live through this? because it was almost like an engulfing power over you.
It was a power that overwhelmed Americans and Filipinos alike. The Aita tribespeople saw a new face to Apo Maliari.
They have fear now because of the trembling of the Mount Pinatubo. It sounds like a machine like bulldozer, a group, and like trembling. That's why the people are very afraid. They are thinking it is the end of the world.
As the ash cloud from Pinatubo rose, the sky darkened until the sun was completely obscured. The volcano turned day to night.
It was about 11:30 in the morning. It started getting a little bit darker and darker, and pretty soon, I mean, it was pitch black. You couldn't even see the hand in front of your face. So I went ahead and did the stand up there.
It's a little bit larger than ash is what's falling right now from Mount Pinatubo, which has been erupting steadily all afternoon. We've also had a number of earthquakes and even some thunderstorms on a wild afternoon in the Philippines.
We couldn't see much, but we could smell the sulfur. We could smell the ash, feel the ash coming down on you. Everything was just in darkness.
White ash fell to earth in ghostly drifts a foot deep. For 100,000 Filipino refugees, every step became misery.
It was a very intense time, and you think, these people, they're walking by us, they've lost their homes, and they really don't know where they're going. Actually, a lot of us felt, almost a little bit guilty. We had vehicles, we had food. They were just carrying whatever they had, and most of them were walking.
But in the face of Pinatubo, the most powerful military might in the world was also helpless. The shroud that covered Clark Air Base mourned the end of an era for the United States in the Philippines.
Clark was just a blanket of gray. It just looked like the moon. It was just dead. Everything was just dead. The foliage, the grass, the trees, everything was just consumed by the ash. We knew then that this base would never be the same again.
After 100 years, the American flag was finally lowered in the Philippines. But Pinatubo had not finished yet. On the volcano's slopes, ash from deep inside the earth now lay in drifts hundreds of feet thick, and the typhoon season was starting. Torrential rain triggered volcanic mud flows down the river valleys of the mountain. They carried away roads, bridges, entire villages. Hundreds of people were killed. 400,000 more left homeless. Today, 6 years of volcanic mudflow have left an alien landscape around Pinatubo. A desert pockmarked with forgotten houses and half-buried monuments. For the people of its submerged towns, the past is already a dusty dream.
This is the church before the eruption. But now, as it is, we passed through these 3 windows already. During the eruption, this is the beginning, the first one. And then...
Like a latter-day Pompeii, the eruption of Mount Pinatubo served notice of the immense power of the earth and the transience of mankind. But the human spirit clings to irrational hope in even the bleakest landscapes. Rather than give up, the people here have chosen to build up, to raise their houses on stilts to what they hope is a safe level. They are trying to outwit nature. The memory of Pompeii is a potent and universal one, of a people who were swallowed alive by the earth. Yet even where Pompeii and Herculaneum fell, successive generations have built again and increased their numbers 100-fold. Mount Vesuvius remains a threat, the only active volcano on mainland Europe. But 3 million people now live beneath it. Today, the Pompeii eruption could kill 200,000. Like all who live in the shadow of a volcano, the citizens of Naples believe they have special protection from nature. Through their city's patron saint, they hope to stave off indefinitely the catastrophe of volcanic eruption. Around the world, 500 million others share their predicament and feel the same. For while volcanoes may take life away, they also enhance it. The eruption that blights one generation yields an abundant harvest for later ones, and the magnificence of volcanic eruption is inseparable from the destruction that accompanies it. In their violence and their beauty, we glimpse the heart of our planet, our own deepest fears and highest aspirations. Next week on Savage Earth, Tsunami, elusive waves of destruction which can outrun a jet plane. To learn more about our Savage Earth, a booklet is available. Send 2 first-class stamps to Savage Earth, P.O. Box 525, Manchester M60 3JF.